Women never forget a man who makes her feel seen in a world that constantly overlooks people. Not just seen for her beauty, not just noticed for what she does for others, but truly seen for who she is beneath the surface. The man who listens without rushing to interrupt, who remembers the little details she casually mentioned weeks ago, who understands her moods without demanding explanations. That kind of presence is rare. When a woman feels deeply understood, something inside her relaxes. She feels safe. And safety is unforgettable. If you want to stand out in a noisy world full of shallow attention, become the man who pays attention with intention. Women never forget a man who respects her boundaries without being told twice. A man who doesn't push, doesn't pressure, and doesn't treat, no, like a challenge. Respect is powerful. It communicates strength, maturity, and self-control. When a man can lead without controlling and care without suffocating, he becomes unforgettable. Respect shows that you value her as a human being, not as an ego boost. In today's world, that level of emotional discipline separates boys from men. Women never forget a man who is consistent. Anyone can be charming for a day. Anyone can impress for a week. But consistency, that's rare. Calling when you say you will. Showing up when you promise. Acting the same in private and in public. Consistency builds trust, and trust builds emotional attachment. When your words and actions align, you become dependable. And dependability creates security. Security creates memories that last. Women never forget a man who makes her feel emotionally safe. This is deeper than physical protection. Emotional safety means she can express her fears without being mocked, share her dreams without being dismissed, and admit her flaws without being judged. When a man can handle her vulnerability without weaponizing it later, he earns a place in her memory that cannot easily be replaced. Emotional safety creates a bond that goes beyond attraction. It creates connection. Women never forget a man who is driven by purpose. A man who wakes up with ambition, who works on himself, who builds something meaningful with his life. Purpose is attractive because it signals stability and vision. When a man is focused on growth, mentally, financially, spiritually, he inspires confidence. He shows that he is not drifting aimlessly. A woman may meet many men, but she rarely forgets the one who knew where he was going and invited her to walk beside him. Women never forget a man who treats others well. The way you speak to waiters, the way you handle disagreements, the way you treat strangers when there is nothing to gain. Character reveals itself in the small moments. A woman pays attention to how you treat the world around you. Kindness, patience, humility, these qualities leave deep impressions. Because if you can treat others with respect when no one is watching, she knows that respect is genuine. What makes these qualities powerful is that they are not tricks. They are not manipulation strategies. They are character traits. And character cannot be faked for long. If you try to perform these behaviors without embodying them, eventually the mask slips. But when they come from real growth, they become part of your identity. That is when you become unforgettable. Not because you tried to impress, but because you became valuable. The truth is, unforgettable men do not chase validation. They chase growth. They invest in their health, their mindset, their finances, and their emotional intelligence. They understand that attraction is not about flashy gestures but about steady presence. When you improve yourself, you naturally command respect. And respect lasts longer than excitement. There is something powerful about a man who can stay calm under pressure. When problems arise and emotions run high, the man who responds with composure stands out. Emotional control signals strength. It shows that you are not ruled by impulse. In relationships, this creates stability. Stability creates comfort, and comfort builds lasting impact. Confidence also plays a role. Not loud arrogance, not constant self-promotion, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to compete or compare. When a man knows his value, he doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't tolerate disrespect. He sets standards and lives by them. That kind of grounded energy is magnetic. Gratitude is another trait that leaves a mark. When a man appreciates a woman genuinely, her effort, her mind, her presence, without exaggeration or flattery, she feels valued. Appreciation strengthens connection. People remember how you made them feel, and gratitude makes people feel important. Growth mindset makes you unforgettable too. A man who can admit mistakes and improve is rare. Pride destroys relationships. Humility strengthens them. When you can say, "I was wrong," and mean it, you demonstrate maturity. Maturity builds trust. Trust builds depth. Leadership without domination is powerful. Taking initiative, planning, making decisions while still considering her voice. Women do not forget men who can guide without controlling. Leadership is about responsibility, not ego. When you handle challenges with strength and care, you become reliable. Protecting her reputation when she is not around also leaves a lasting impression. The man who refuses to entertain gossip about her, who defends her character when others speak negatively, demonstrates loyalty. Loyalty is unforgettable because it is rare. Patience is another quality that separates memorable men from forgettable ones. Relationships evolve. People grow. There will be misunderstandings. The man who chooses patience over anger creates emotional space for healing. Patience communicates depth and stability. Self-respect matters too. When you respect yourself, you naturally demand respect from others. You don't tolerate manipulation. You don't settle for less than you deserve. Self-respect teaches others how to treat you. And that silent strength is powerful. Finally, authenticity ties everything together. When you are real, flaws and all, you create a genuine connection. Pretending to be perfect creates distance. Being honest creates closeness. Women do not forget the man who was unapologetically himself and encouraged her to be herself too. If this message speaks to you, if you want to become a stronger, wiser, more unforgettable man, make sure you subscribe to this channel. This space is about growth, discipline, confidence, and real transformation. Join this community and take your mindset to another level. Subscribe now and become the kind of man no one forgets. Women never forget a man who keeps his word when it is inconvenient. It is easy to be reliable when everything is going well. It is different when you are tired, stressed, or busy and you still choose to honor your promises. Integrity shines brightest under pressure. When your commitment does not change with your mood, you create a foundation that feels solid. She may forget sweet lines. She will not forget the man who showed up when it mattered most. Women never forget a man who communicates clearly instead of playing games. Mixed signals create confusion. Silence creates insecurity, but clarity creates peace. When you say what you feel without manipulation or ego, you build emotional stability. You do not disappear to test her interest. You do not create jealousy to feel powerful. You speak directly. That level of emotional maturity stands out in a world full of mind games. Women never forget a man who supports her growth instead of competing with it. If she has goals, dreams, or ambitions, you encourage them. You celebrate her wins instead of feeling threatened. Secure men are not intimidated by strong women. They understand that two ambitious people can build something powerful together. When she feels supported rather than limited, she associates you with empowerment. Empowerment leaves a permanent mark. Women never forget a man who protects her peace. Not every argument needs to be won. Not every comment deserves a reaction. The man who chooses wisdom over ego creates emotional harmony. When you avoid unnecessary drama and handle conflict with maturity, she feels calm around you. Peace is addictive. If being with you feels safe and steady instead of chaotic, you become unforgettable. Women never forget a man who invests in himself consistently. Physical health, mental clarity, financial discipline, spiritual growth, self-improvement signals self-respect. When you take care of your body, sharpen your mind, and build your future, you radiate confidence. You show that you are not waiting for someone to complete you. You are already building yourself. That kind of self-sufficiency is powerful. Women never forget a man who listens to understand, not to respond. Active listening is rare. When she speaks and you truly absorb her words instead of preparing your next sentence, she feels valued. You ask thoughtful questions. You remember her preferences. You notice changes in her tone. That attention communicates care, and care builds deep emotional memory. Women never forget a man who remains calm during disagreements. Conflict is inevitable, but your reaction defines you. Do you insult, withdraw, or explode? Or do you breathe, reflect, and respond with clarity? Emotional control demonstrates inner strength. It reassures her that problems can be solved without emotional damage. That reassurance builds trust over time. Women never forget a man who has standards. Standards are not about controlling someone else. They're about knowing what you will and will not accept. When you carry yourself with self-respect, you naturally attract respect. You do not beg for attention. You do not tolerate disrespect. You set boundaries with confidence. That grounded energy makes you memorable. Women never forget a man who leads with actions rather than empty promises. Words can be impressive, but actions prove character. If you say you care, you demonstrate it. If you say you are serious, you act serious. Consistency between speech and behavior builds credibility. Credibility builds long-term impact. Women never forget a man who can be vulnerable without losing his strength. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is honesty. When you can admit fears, share struggles, and express emotions responsibly, you create intimacy. Strength and softness combined create balance. That balance deepens connection in a way surface-level charm never can. Women never forget a man who makes her feel chosen, not convenient. When your effort is intentional and your presence is focused, she feels prioritized. You do not treat her like an option. You treat her like a priority. Attention given with intention creates emotional security. Security creates attachment. Women never forget a man who challenges her to grow. Not through criticism, but through inspiration. Your discipline motivates her discipline. Your ambition sparks her ambition. Your mindset elevates the environment around you. When your presence encourages improvement, she associates you with progress. Women never forget a man who walks away from toxicity. Sometimes strength is not about holding on, it is about knowing when to leave what disrespects you. A man who can detach from chaos without drama demonstrates emotional independence. Independence is powerful. It shows that you value peace more than ego battles. Women never forget a man who balances confidence with humility. You are proud of your achievements, but you do not boast. You are strong, but you are not arrogant. You can lead, but you can also listen. That balance creates depth, and depth is unforgettable. The truth is, unforgettable men are not built overnight. They are shaped through discipline, self-reflection, and intentional growth. They understand that attraction fades without character. They focus on becoming solid internally rather than flashy externally. When you master yourself, you naturally stand out. If you are serious about becoming that kind of man, the one remembered for his character, his strength, and his presence, then this channel is for you. Here, we focus on mindset, discipline, growth, and real transformation. Subscribe and join a community committed to becoming better every single day. Build yourself into the kind of man who is not just noticed, but remembered.